Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Another Parenting Perspective. This podcast talks about ways we can strengthen the parent child relationship through the process of parental evolution. I'm Smriti Gopal, an educator, a conscious living coach, a conscious parenting coach, and a present moment awareness coach. I hope this podcast supports you as you go along parenting. In this episode, I talk about the plane of development which puts us and our children on a similar plane. We are both adults, and this episode talks about how we can show up as adults for our adult children. The parent child relationship goes through a metamorphosis just like our children do. The role of a parent shifts from managing to supporting. The framework that we parents have provided in their childhood and young adulthood slowly widens from plane to plane. The adult child sets this structure for themselves by themselves. If we do not recognize this growth and provide space for it, the parent child connection is threatened. The adult child feels smothered and claustrophobic, and that is where the connection is lost. As a mother of two adult children, I can say that developing a connection with the self is of utmost importance. This seems to be a common thread in all the episodes in the podcast, Another Parenting Perspective. This discovery is very essential for us to be able to give the space required by our children to differentiate and become their own individuals while maintaining a healthy parent child connect. I believe that parenting is truly a call to go on an inward journey. Our children continue to hold up the mirrors for us to see those parts of us that need healing throughout all the planes of their development. And these planes of development that they go through are so strategically designed that each plane offers us a different curriculum for our path inward. Being a mom to two adult daughters continues to reveal this curriculum that's designed for me. This curriculum is custom made. Each of us have a different timetable and we learn different aspects in different planes. Entering this phase of life where my children and I are on the same plane of development, that is adult, not only continues to teach me all that the other planes have taught me with greater intensity, but it also introduced me to a very tough subject, and that is letting go. As we go through these planes of development along with our children, wherever we find that stumbling block is where our healing lies. That's why the planes of development are so different for different parents, because each of us come with our own conditioning and our own belief systems, and we are stuck up at different points. The trickiest part of this plane, however, is balance, knowing when to engage and when to retract. Because our children have grown up, no doubt. They are adults now with opinions, ideas, and plans of their own. There are so many new aspects that emerge within this parent child dynamic with these new life situations that they go through. Some situations are familiar to us and some are not. So it may be tough for us to understand some of their ideas and opinions due to our own conditioning, beliefs, and ignorance, maybe. So, the thumb rule to show up for these changing situations that I use is to watch, observe, ask questions, suggest or appreciate, then let go, accept, and rejoice. These are certainly easier said than done. However, when they are done, they definitely relieve suffering and build connections. Here are 10 pointers that continue to guide me to have a healthy parent adult child relationship. The first one, ask questions to clarify what we do not understand and to know more about their lives. I think this is a very crucial point. Ask before we make assumptions, because assumptions can cause us a lot of separation and suffering. The second, be interested but not interfering. I think that's where this balancing act is being played in this role. I've seen parents who get frustrated that children are making their own decisions, their own opinions. So I'm just going to shut off and just let them do what they want. But our children want us to be interested. If you want to build a strong parent child connection, disconnection is not going to help, or disinterest is not going to help. So being interested but not interfering. I think this comes when we take away the parental ego and say that they must listen to us or it must be this way. Looking into that definitely helps here. Number three, be aware of giving unsolicited advice. I mean, we're all guilty of this. I think it just happens automatically sometimes. And it's okay when it happens, but to retract from there is where the power lies. They will ask us when they want something, and when they want your opinion, you give it. When they don't want your opinion, we keep it to ourselves. Number four, reach out when you feel like talking. Who's going to be the first one? I've heard parents say, oh, I don't call them because they may be busy, I may be disturbing them. I see this as an adult child myself, and I see it with my adult children that yes, they may be busy and this is all very valid, but we can send a message or just say, hey, I want to talk to you. Let me know when it works. Reaching out makes them feel that they are important to us. So instead of sitting in the melancholy of they didn't call me, we can just reach out, send a message, and leave it at that, and they'll get back to us when they can. Number five, keep in touch as much as seems healthy for us both. This is not the same for everyone. We've got to check into ourselves, and our children check into themselves, and we decide a convenient number of times that we speak or meet or whatever that works for us. Number six, we never have and never will and don't need to know everything about their lives. So stop probing. We will know what we need to know when we need to know it. I think if the conversation with our children becomes interrogative, like as if they are standing in the box and being questioned by a judge, then they don't want to call us because they may not want to talk about some things right now. They may not be ready. So I think giving them the space to take the conversation where they want to will help us a long way in our connect. Number seven, be willing to be there for them no matter what. So, the whole thing about this parental ego, I said so, has to be revisited when we are dealing with mostly adult children, with all children, but mostly adult children, because if the intention is the welfare of the child, then I said so is not serving the purpose, it's only serving the parental ego. So, this is something we need to look into. Number eight, give just the right amount of space and suggestions, but a whole lot of unconditional love. I mean, who doesn't want to be loved, right? So, but at the same time, we don't want to be very, very enmeshed. The children want to grow, they differentiate, they want to make their own mistakes, they want to learn from those. Definitely, suggestions are welcome when they are not imposed. So, the moment that pressure of the imposition is taken away, then there is a feeling of unconditional love and there's a conversation between two adults. Number nine, recognize how unmet expectations are coloring the conversations we are having with them. This is so true. If you notice it, you will recognize it that when there is an expectation that is there in our, even in our subconscious, due to our conditioning or whatever it is, and then we are doing all this work and we want to think differently, and outwardly we do, but it's tainted with this resentment or the sadness or the disappointment from the expectation not being met. So it's very easily possible for comparisons to set in, or we say something snappy. So, recognizing ways in which our conversations are colored by the feelings of these unmet needs is very important, which means we need to take care of this on our own. What is this I'm not okay with completely? And sit with it and heal it. Number 10, receive the differences in choices from a place of willingness to see their perspective rather than from a space of having lost a battle. The battle, of course, is do as I say, do as I know, and as I want. So, this again goes back to our parental ego. I think the main thing by the time we reach adulthood, that plane of development, is to have taken care of the parental ego. And all the episodes in this podcast have been talking about keeping the parental ego in check. And hopefully, by the time we welcome our children into this plane of development, which is adulthood, we are ready to put that parental ego to the side when it arises. As we heal our own traumas from childhood and see clearly our own conditioning and beliefs that we are stuck in, it becomes very easy to set aside this parental ego. And then this connection with this adult child is so fresh and so new and so being there for them when they need us the most. Even though our children have grown up and they don't need us like they did before, our involvement in their lives gives them and us joy and peace. We all know that. So, do we want to stay connected to our adult children? If we want to, then we have work to do, which continues. The work that we have begun from the time the child is conceived to now is the spiritual journey of the evolution of our own selves so that we can meet this moment with grace, compassion, and understanding, and lots of love. Another very important aspect that I find helpful is to look deeply into our own parent child relationship with our parents. There is a lot one can learn from that. However, it's also very important not to pressurize ourselves or our adult children to conform or even not to conform to that template. It's just there. You just look into it like patterns and see what is worth repeating and what is worth giving up. At the point where I was saying that there is this underlying expectations not being met, I think it stems from this too. There is some part of us which says that this is the relationship and that therefore that's the relationship that has to be with my own adult child. So looking into this is very important because I think that colors all our conversations. And when we look into this and we are clear of all these baggages, meeting our children with an openness and freshness each time we meet will give us both space to be who we truly are in this moment. We are both growing and are not the same each time we meet. Knowing this is very liberating. I think putting an expectation on the meeting, especially because our adult children live far away from us. And when we meet them, an expectation from the past is going to cause suffering if it's not met in this present moment. So, meeting this moment completely open and fresh will keep us connected to what is and help us show up in authentic ways to what is. To show up fully to this plane of development, it is very essential that we have been on this journey of self discovery and have been nurturing our inner wounds. That's what all these episodes in this podcast is talking about. If we don't do this healing, this plane, that is the adulthood, can act as a very big trigger and come in the way of a healthy parent adult child relationship. We have to learn how to pause. We have to see what's arising within us, and we have to attune to our adult child and understand what's coming up for them. At this point, an effective toolbox with tools with which you can self regulate and self soothe is very, very essential. We have to practice on using these tools so many times before we actually enter this plane that we are able to pick it up the moment we know that we need it. So there's an awareness that we need a tool, and then we know which tool, and then we pick it up and we actually practice it. When we do this, it's very easy to come back to alignment to what is and have this conversation or interaction or show up for our adult children in most authentic ways. However conscious we might have been, we've been talking about how to show up for our preschoolers, our teens, our young adults, our adults, and we know it all. And we have tried our best to do what we know in that moment. It is still inevitable that our adult child has their own inner wounds and traumas, because they are not interacting only with us and we are not perfect either. So we have caused them distress without resolutions, and so has the world around. And it's very important that our adult children tend to this themselves. At this point, when our child has reached the state of adulthood, it no longer becomes our responsibility to heal them. However, it is very important to take responsibility for the unconsciousness that they might have gone through in their childhood that has caused these wounds. So we have to give them that space to tend to these wounds in ways that they feel called to, rather than imposing our views on them and cause a rift in that relationship. Although the healing is the responsibility of the adult child and nobody can do the healing for another, it's their responsibility and they come to it when they are ready. The one thing that we can take full responsibility is for things that we have done and ways that we have been in the past that they point out to us now, or maybe it comes up during our own meditations. Taking ownership for these. Owning these unconscious moments with a lot of compassion for ourselves and our children helps us both nurture our inner wounds and come to a place of true apology and true forgiveness. I think this openness is extremely crucial for a conscious parent adult child relationship. The moment they point something to us that has happened in their childhood, which they think is painful, if we are taking the defensive or becoming reactive, then it just shows that we have more work to do. They are again pointing a mirror to us. Because if we are healing, we can never be fully healed. But if we are healing, and if this particular wound has healed, then we are ready to take ownership for that. And if that's not the truth in your perspective, there is still going to be a conscious conversation. So the place to start this path of clear seeing with radical honesty is by healing ourselves. If we are not on the path of healing our inner wounds, anything our children point out will serve as triggers rather than reflections. These triggers will act like emotional flashbacks and bring to the forefront all the distress that is not yet resolved. If we are on the conscious path, then this can be a great opportunity to resolve those unresolved distress. If not, we will react, and this will not be helpful for our parent adult child relationship. It causes a bigger rift. Allowing the nature of your parenting to grow and shift along with your child, looking deeply into your conditioning and beliefs that you are stuck in, and being open to revisit the expectations you entered the parent child relationship with, are some ways that we can show up with openness with these adult children. When we follow the path of conscious living, we are aware of the patterns that we are enacting moment by moment and the projections that we are projecting onto our child. When we start seeing these things clearly, it's the first step for us to evolve through everything that this journey of parenting offers us. So stay on that path of healing and continue to work on your inner wounds and nurture them with care so that you can show up with authenticity, joy, and peace in your adult child relationships. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you just heard, consider sharing this podcast with your friends who may have adult children. You can follow me at Smriti Gopal on Instagram and on YouTube. You can also follow me on the Facebook pages Formative Age or Equanimous Coaching. You can find out more about the courses I offer on formativeage.in and the coaching services I offer at equanimouscoaching.com. Until next week, take that most needed pause to keep a check on the parental ego and stay present and alive to discoveries. Thank you and bye bye.